Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Mr. Fix-It channel. Today it is time for everybody's favorite thing to do, and that is scheduled preventative maintenance. Stay tuned.
I was sitting out there in the shed one evening, not doing too much of nothing, just kind of staring at the wall. And
Alright, just real quick here. This is my 1994 Polaris 400L. 2-stroke 4x4. It's the chain drive 4x4 on-demand drive. When I got this quad, it was a basket case. Spent some time rebuilding this quad. Haven't had much trouble out of it. So far I've put a belt on it, a piston instead of rings in it, a head gasket, base gasket, crank seals, shocks on the front, brake pads, the chain back here a few times, 3 frickin' starters in it because Polaris. And just to keep this thing going, I like to do some scheduled preventative maintenance, which for me happens in the wintertime. Now I'm getting ready to stick my snow plow on this quad because we've got some snow coming, and I just want to make sure everything's good to go. And let's get into this. Alright, I'm not going to get into anything too crazy because I do need this quad to be running by tomorrow. So it's not like I'm going to be tearing anything deeply apart. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to check some things. If there's something that needs to be addressed right now, I will go ahead and address it right now. If it's something that can be put off, I'll put it off. So basically I'm just going to go through and start looking at things, checking bearings. Those bearings are loose, those need to be tightened up. While I got it off the ground here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check the steering, make sure nothing's binding and it moves smoothly. Okay, I'm hearing some squeaking. There's probably something we can do about that. I'm going to go ahead and check my headlights muzzle. Alright, now on this side of the quad, I'm going to go ahead and check these wheel bearings. Those are loose too, so I'll have to address that issue. This is pretty obvious, right? Go ahead and check the rear hubs, make sure they're tight. Wiggle this around, see if the swing arm bushings are bad. The chain needs tightened. Okay, that hub's fine. Check your battery connections, those are dirty. I might clean those up. Alright, let's see what we can do about tightening up these hubs a little bit. Now this plastic cap, some of these have 3 screws in it, and you just pull the 3 screws out and pry it out. Mine don't have screws, so there's a little slot right there. Let's pry this out. Now there should be fluid in here, so get you a little drip pan ready. Alright, 1¼ inch socket. I'm going to tighten this. I'm going to roll the front wheel and check to see if all the play's out and that it rolls nice and smooth. Alright, that's good. It only took a little turn. And now we're going to refill this with fluid. Take the drain plug out and then put your hub fluid in. And when you do this, you're going to want this hole at a 4 o'clock position. I'm going to rotate this hole around down to this position, and I'm going to put fluid in until it starts to come back out, and then it's full. Wipe the little magnet off. Don't tighten it, just snug it. Otherwise you'll never get it back out. I'm going to repeat this on the other side. Alright, the next thing I want to do is I want to take the slack out of the chain. I'm going to get a 5/8 socket on the nut down here, 5/8 inch on the bolt up here, and loosen this up. Okay, now I got a 1/4 inch drive extension. There's a hole in the carrier over here, you'll see it. I'm just going to slide that in there. I'm going to use my wrench and rotate the carrier to tighten that chain. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and grease the carrier bearings. And if you follow your chain up to the swing arm pivot, there's also a grease fitting right there. There's also one on the other side here. Alright, so the little grease zerk is clogged straight up. I'm going to try to scrape this out of here, get some grease flowing through this. There we go. Now I'm going to screw this back in there and see if I can't get some grease into that bushing. There we go. Nice. Alright, while I'm here I just want to show you that this little screw right here on the rear brake caliper, this adjusts your foot pedal for the rear brake. You want to loosen the lock nut and thread that in to take up the play. If you thread it in too far, you'll just apply the brake. Alright, now this little guy right here, this is like a bump stop for the exhaust. And you see there's a gap there. I want to go take that gap out so it supports the exhaust. Alright, now this right here, this is the muffler drain, but good luck getting that thing out. Alright, so we got that rear chain tightened. Now there's two more chains that need tightened, this one and the one that's up here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this cover. There's a couple bolts in the fender here. I've already got those removed. Let's get this cover off and I'll show you how to adjust that chain. This wheel's right in our way, so I'm going to take this off. Alright, so you got two bolts, one here and here. You're going to need a 5/8 ratchet and a 5/8 wrench. Now I'm going to hold this bolt on the back side, back in here. You don't have to take this all the way off, you just got to loosen it. But I want to take this bolt out and clean it up. Okay, I can't get the socket back behind here because of this cover, so I'm just going to use another wrench and another wrench. Oh, it wasn't even that tight. Okay, so if yours is like mine and hasn't been moved in a long time, then it's probably stuck and you're just going to have to work it loose. Let's start with this juice here. Let that soak in a little bit. Alright, so there's these tabs. There's one on this side and one on this side which you can't see. But I'm going to stick a crescent wrench on that tab and try to wiggle this thing loose. Alright, now that I got that adjuster loose, I can take the slack out of the chain. I'm going to roll this carrier this way. Yeah, it looks pretty good right there. After cleaning these bolts up, I noticed some bad threads, so I'm going to go ahead and chase these threads real quick. These are 7/16 20 TPI. A little bit of anti-seize on these threads here. Don't forget to tighten these back up. Just snug them. They don't have to be real tight. Alright, there is a grease fitting right there, so we'll be sure to get some grease into this. There's also a bolt that goes up here, but my tab on my cover is broken, so I did not remove that. Alright, I'm going to check the transmission fluid. Kind of got to. Staring right at it. Oh, that's way too much. Perfect. Alright, while I got this wheel off, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grease the control arm, I'm going to grease the universal joint, and I'm going to grease the ball joint. Alright, since we tightened up that other chain, it loosened this front chain, so now we got to tighten this front chain up. Alright, now you're going to take your 5/8 socket and you're going to put it right in that hole on that nut. Might as well go ahead and soak this thing down first. Okay, if you notice, there's 3 holes in this, I call it a spool. It's basically the front diff. And it works like that other chain tensioner. We got to loosen that bolt underneath there and then rotate this thing. So these 3 holes, get yourself a 1/4 inch extension. And usually I just use a wrench and I'll just tuck it underneath there. And if this thing's not stuck, it should roll. Just gotta wiggle it back and forth till it comes loose. Now you can just reach in underneath here and feel the slack on the chain. I'm turning this clockwise to tighten the chain. And then tighten the bolt back up. Okay, while we're here, there's a grease zerk there. There's one there. There's also one right there. And if you look real close at the steering stem, there's one right there. And don't forget about the ball joint. Okay, there's one more grease fitting that's kind of hidden, and I'm going to show it to you in case you don't know where this is at. Right back in here. You see it there? There, it stopped. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and check the coolant level. I've got this stubby little screwdriver to get this screw out. Yep, that's full. Now I'm just going to test the potency of this coolant. Make sure it's up to the task, because right now it's -2 degrees Fahrenheit with 40-mile-an-hour winds. Alright, I got 4 balls floating. I am good to -25 Fahrenheit. Go ahead and check the level of two-stroke oil here. Yep, that's pretty much full. Check the level of the coolant in the overflow bottle, which mine isn't here. It is now back here. Yeah, it might be a little low. If you'd like to see how I move that tank under the seat, there's a video link right here. Alright, let's check the air filter since we're here. Yep, there's been a mouse in there. I'll get that all cleaned up real quick. And since we're checking things, let's go ahead and check brake fluid. Yeah, that looks good. We'll leave that alone. One thing that gets overlooked a lot is the speedometer drive cable. And keep some lube on this, because these things have this little key that connects this cable to the transmission. And if this cable seizes up, then it breaks that little key, and that thing is a pain to get to. Trust me, ask me how I know. I'm just using WD-40. Don't put any heavy oil in here, because on days like today when it's really cold, sub-zero, Arctic-like cold, the oil that you put in here may become too tacky and stick this cable and break your key anyway. I wonder how many of these 6,679 miles was wheel spin. 200 miles? 500 miles? 1,000 miles? Who knows? Alright, finally down to the whole reason why I pulled this quad in here in the first place, is to fix my switch for my plow. I gotta fix this thing back up there, because I need to plow snow, because it's like this outside. Well, that's all I got for you today. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.